Greetings, and welcome To Play or Not to Play. I'm Mtpy. Throughout the years, thousands of games have been developed and enjoyed by gamers. Nowadays, games can be massive undertakings by gigantic companies or works of passion by small teams, or somewhere in between, of course. Either way, there are more games available today than anyone could hope to play in an entire life. This series will look at some older games I've played throughout my life, if they hold up today. By 1990, console gaming had become a huge market. The NES, launched in 1985, had revitalized a North American market shaken partially with the failure of E.T. for the Atari, but mostly by a glut of very similar games being shoved out by developers, despite failure to get sold. In any case, by 1990 the console market was riding high, and computer games were lagging a little bit behind. Enormously successful games like Mario Bros. 3 could not yet be recreated on home computers, though that was about to change. Though computer gaming was still a fairly sizable market in the games industry, its games were a bit different in scope. They included such titles as Railroad Tycoon, SimCity, and The Secret of Monkey Island. All of those are great games, but slower paced than console titles. Famous game programmer John Carmack had been working on a solution to this, and the end result is what is called adaptive title refresh, which reduced the strain on the hardware of computers and let them carry out smooth scrolling, much the way consoles like the NES and the Sega Genesis could. With that new bit of technological innovation and the successful demonstration of it in a game called Dangerous Dave, based off Super Mario Bros. 3, the group who worked with Carmack, including Tom Hall, John Romero, Jay Wilbur, and Lane Roth, tried to pitch it to Nintendo to port Mario to PC. They, however, while being impressed, were not interested in Mario going to other platforms. The group was approached by Scott Miller of Apogee Software to do some work for him. When they told him they were working on something much better than the project he wanted them to work on, and showed him what they had created, he was impressed and they agreed to work on that concept instead. That concept would, of course, turn out to be Commander Keen. Apogee's market strategy was somewhat unique at the time, with a concept called shareware, which was giving out a sizable portion of the game for free to attract interest in the whole game and encourage sales. Personally, I like the model as it encourages developers to make a good product and let it speak for itself rather than spend a ton of marketing money tricking a customer into buying a faulty or lacking product only to realize it after they've bought and paid for it. The point is, however, that a full third of the game, Commander Keen Invasion of the Vorticons, was released for free, the Marooned on Mars chapter. As a child, I played this chapter of the game extensively, beat it a few times, and found many of the secrets. Sadly, I lacked the funds to get the full version of the game until much later, when the entire thing was released on Steam. So I'm going to focus pretty much on the first chapter, at least for now. It starts off with our hero, child genius Billy Blaze, building a rocket ship and flying to Mars. While there, Vorticons steal some essential components of his ship and he must recover them to be able to fix his ship and get home. What follows is a fairly standard type of platformer. You can walk around the overworld and after the first level, pick which level you want to go to. Only some of them have things you need to advance through the game. Others are just there to explore and gain some points. Visually, the game looks pretty good. Even today, it has an excellent retro vibe to it, which is to say that you won't feel like you're looking at chunks of poorly designed blech pixels. Everything has a vibrancy to it and a clear-cut nature. Though the background is very lacking, it keeps your attention on the action in the foreground and undistracted. Despite the nice looking sprites and the foreground really popping out, many of the maps still feel a bit sparse because of the background issue. One of the biggest drawbacks of the game is the audio. There is no background music, and many of the sound effects are dated, bleepy, bloopy, and quite frankly, to me at least, rather grating. Though many of the item sounds and things like shooting and extra lives are okay, the constant repetitive sound of footsteps, jumping, and bumping into things really ruins all those other effects. The controls of the game are fairly simple, but still have a major flaw themselves. The essential controls are arrows for directional movement, control to jump, alt to use a pogo stick, and space for the inventory menu. Fair enough. However, the controls to shoot are both control and alt at the same time. As you can imagine, this often causes shots to be wasted when platforming with the pogo stick and jumping, especially when attempting some fast maneuvers. Gameplay-wise, the platforming is fairly basic. Nothing in it really stands out as excellent, but neither does any of it seem really lacking, just somewhat uninspired. Though there are some few interesting tricky sections of the maps, none of those things are required to beat the game, and overall the maps seem pretty basic. With just 17 maps, of which just 6 are required to beat the game, it's also an incredibly short game. Compared to Super Mario Bros. 3, which had 90 maps, it shows a bit of the failings of the game. Though to be fair, Marooned on Mars is just the first part of 3 games. After collecting the 4 parts of the ship, the player is treated to a short series of cutscene, pictures, and text wrapping up this chapter of the story. It's fairly standard stuff, with a bit of humor mixed in, and of course a cliffhanger to support buying the next 2 chapters, which were not shareware. Overall, it makes a short, kind of unimpressive game by today's standards. Now, don't get me wrong, I personally like the game, partially because I have fond memories of it from my childhood, and partially because I have an interest in history, and Commander Keen holds an important place in video game history, but the game hasn't aged gracefully. As far as to play or not to play, I think there are sufficient other better platformer games, even ones from the time period of the early 90s, to play instead. I would recommend the game to anyone who wants to play a bit of history, but if you are just looking for a great old platformer, the first Commander Keen just doesn't measure up. Though later games in the series would revise and improve many of the issues that dragged down the first game, and all the games are for sale as a bundle on Steam, so the bundle is kind of worth getting, even if I wouldn't say the first game alone is worth playing. And there you have it, Commander Keen, Marooned on Mars. I hope you enjoyed the video, and stay tuned after the cutscene and all that to watch some bloopers of me dying over and over, and have a great day.